Hello. I haven't made a video in so long. I remember making one in One Book July last year, and it's the end of One Book July 2020. So I haven't made one in ages. So hi. I just wanted to give you a quick update about why I haven't made a video before I make a couple of videos, I hope, in One Book July, but I'm not doing it in July, I'm doing it in August because July crept up on me. So I'm going to call it One Book July, but it'll be done in August. And if you hear that noise, that's Rosie. Let me show you. Rosie! Rosie Pie. I think I've shown you her before. She's 2. Her sister, Ruby. Oh, she's going to knock the phone over, I know. Is on the windowsill bed. Rosie, you move. Thank you, sweetie bum. She's in a good mood, but that may be because yesterday we sprayed some stuff with catnip. So for almost 24 hours, she's been up to no good last night and playful and cuddly and happy this morning. But she pushed my phone over last time I was trying to record about 3 minutes ago. So, and she's been eating this fake orchid. So hopefully she'll behave. But yeah, that's Rosie. And then Ruby, who is her sister, is in bed, but they're lovely and they aren't fighting right now, which is nice because they were fighting before, and they have just turned 2, we think. We got them at 10 weeks old. That was in October. So we think that this sort of time of year, late July, is their birthday. And then quick update about the dogs. So this time last year when I made a video about One Book July and I introduced you to Daisy, if you saw that one, we only had Daisy, and now we've got another dog. We got him from the same charity that we rescued Daisy from. It's a charity that rescues dogs from Hungary. They bring them over to the UK once they've found a home for them. And they're not in the house at the moment. Mum's taking them out for a walk, which is why I'm able to film in the peace and quiet at the moment. But we got Daisy on the 8th of July last year, and we got Jasper on the 15th, something like that, of July this year. So a year apart, and Jasper is about 10.5 or 11 years old. He's a medium-sized dog. He weighs about 24 kilos. I'm describing him to you because I haven't got pictures to show you because I can't edit videos, which is really frustrating, which is one of the reasons why I haven't been making videos. But he's sort of brown or black and a bit of grey. And he, we don't know what breed mix he is. He's not purebred. We think Daisy is a Labrador cross Patterdale. So she's got Labrador tendencies in that she's very friendly and she eats everything, and she puts weight on really easily, and she likes water. And she's got Terrier tendencies in that she's very clever and quite stubborn and will chase small animals if she thinks there's like a rabbit in a hole in the park. She's absolutely lovely, and she's been with us for a year, so she's well adapted to our home and the fact that we've got the 2 cats. And then we got her after my old dog died, and he was called Bertie. I'm probably showing you him, I can't remember. He died last May of old age. He was 10.5, 11, that kind of age, which is an average. It's on the young side, I guess, for an Airedale Terrier, which was what he was. But obviously we would have wanted him to live longer, but he'd suddenly become old and suddenly become kind of too unhealthy because dogs sometimes age all of a sudden. In, I guess it was April to May, he suddenly became old and suddenly became, he wouldn't eat, and he became really unwell. And so, yeah, he was just dying at the end. So it would have been cruel to carry on, like, just trying to force feed him. It was awful. He died on the day after the late May bank holiday last year. And Mum found Daisy on a website which connected her to the charity that Daisy was being rescued by. She had been rescued from an awful yard type environment. It was kind of like a load of rubbish and rubble and crap in a yard, and she was in like a shelter area that was like a kind of woodshed, but it was made of brick rather than wood, and there was old stuff in there, like an old mattress and stuff like that, in which she had kind of like a kennel sized area that she could get out of the rain, but she was chained so that she could only go a few feet away from the entrance of this woodshed. And she had one, in the photos that we've seen, she had one saucepan with no handle, I'm guessing with water in it. It might have been food, but who knows how much food or water she actually had. And so she was on this chain. So she's got scars on her neck, which have healed, but there's no hair there on the scars, little white, like a few inches long, about 1.5 centimeters wide. And she was really timid when she came to us, but she was very lucky because she'd been fostered for 6 months, 5 months, 6 months by a really nice lady in Hungary, in Budapest, who is a veterinary student. So she's really good with dogs, and she has her own dogs. And so she was fostered for 5 months by this lady called Anna, who really wanted to keep her, but has got too many dogs to be able to keep another one. So when she came to us, she was nervous, she was skittish, but she was able to understand a home life because she'd obviously not lived in a house for a few years, because we think she's about 5 now, and she was about 4 at that point, but the vet thought she may have been a bit younger. So she hadn't lived in a home for a few years. So Anna had done really well with getting her to adapt to a home, and then she did really well adapting to our family with the 2 cats, and the 2 of us, me and my mum, and my brother when he comes back from Portsmouth. And so she learned, she's very clever, so she was able to learn all of the things that we needed her to learn, like all of the commands to keep her safe, and to, you know, say come here and give me kisses, and, you know, the normal stuff you do with a dog. And she's so clever, and she's taught herself things. So she's so clever that she taught herself A to B. So, like, I pick up the keys, that means we're going out. But now she knows if I go to the cupboard where the keys live, where we hang them up when we're not using them, she knows that we're going out. So she's taught herself A to C, the C being the cupboard. And we cut out the middleman of picking. Oh, you cut out a, you know, she's taught herself the associations between things that are indirect. So she's very clever. So Jasper, he wasn't fostered. He has been in a rescue centre for 9 years. 9 years. That's like the whole of a dog's life, because, you know, they obviously only live for like 10 to 15 years. 15 if you're lucky. Smaller dogs live longer, bigger dogs live less long. He's about 10.5 or 11 now, because he was given to a shelter at the age of about 1.5, and he's been in shelters for about 9 years. So obviously he's an older dog, but that doesn't necessarily mean he can't learn. I know there's that saying, an old dog can't learn new tricks, but he's learnt things already, and he's been here less than 2 weeks. We got him not last Tuesday, the Tuesday before. So he doesn't understand any English. He doesn't even know his name. And when we first got him, he wasn't nervous like Daisy, because Daisy was maltreated. We think she was hosed, because she hates the hose. She hates having a bath or anything. So if you stubbed your toe on the floor, like even if you were wearing shoes, so your foot sort of made an abrupt stop as you took a step, she would think that you were about to kick her, and she would flinch and like that because she'd obviously been abused. Jasper has none of that, so he's been well looked after. He loves people. He will instantly get on the floor and you know, paws in the air and say, tickle my tummy. So he's not been abused, which is great. But you know, what did he go through that 9 years of not being in a home? He was looked after. He's been to the vets. He's been well fed, but he just hasn't had that family life that I think that every dog needs and wants. Obviously, there are working dogs, like dogs that live in a barn and stuff, that don't necessarily have that family life, and they're none the worse for it. But personally, I like to think that dogs need people. Rosie's on the floor currently attacking my trouser leg and scratching the carpet. Rosie, stop it. Thank you. So he's come to us as a dog who we thought wouldn't know how to be in a home, and he'd been in a home with his previous owners for the first, let's say, year and a half of his life. He's adapted so well. He is amazing. He loves his bed. And Mum was making his bed up for him. And before she'd even finished, he got in it. And she was like, no, get out. I need to finish making your bed. And this was within an hour of us having him. And he was like, no, I'm not getting out. This is my bed now. This is where I'm going to stay for the rest of my life. He's so cute. And we had to have him on the lead in the house, because you're thinking, right, he's been living in this outside enclosure for 9 years. Is he going to wee in the house? Because we had a period where Daisy would be weeing in the dining room, and we'd like, oh, for God's sake, we take you out regularly, stop weeing in the dining room. It was the same time every night as well, so there must have been some sort of psychological thing. It was the same time my old dog barked as well. It was about 8:20, so maybe someone was getting home and it scared her, and we couldn't hear it, like a car door shutting or front door in the street shutting or something, and it scared them. I don't know. Anyway, she'd wee. He's only weed in the house once, and that was on Mum's chair, like on the chair leg, so maybe he was just marking his territory. But we take him out regularly, and now he's getting to about 5 hours without having to go out, so that's great, because that was one of my main problems. And my other main problem, with him being on the lead, he's controllable, but for the past week and a half, he's been so good that we've not had to have him on the lead. But with the cats, you bring in an unpredictable element into your home, so a dog, and how do you know if they're going to be good with cats? And obviously, we only adopted him because we've seen videos of him with cats, and he's been fine. But we think he's got some terrier in him, and he's a dog, you know, dogs chase cats, and he's got some terriers, so terriers like chasing small animals, and a few times he's been close to catching them, and obviously we don't know what he'd do once he caught them. If he thinks it's a game, he might let them go, but then he might have bitten them, or he might kill them. So that's why he's been controlled so much in the house, but he's so good with them. He's so close sometimes to catching them, but that's like 10% of the time, and we're always with him. And we're always able to grab him by the collar if we think that he's going to be in a situation with them. But he loves them, and he always goes to look for them. We regularly go and visit them in the garage, which is where they play, because they're not allowed out of the house because we live near a main road, and I think, oh God, they're going to get run over. But he wants to go and visit them, and he really likes Rosie. Rosie's quite like a dog herself, so the dogs love her. And Ruby is such a cat. She's a qualified cat. She's ticked all the boxes of I love my home, and no, you won't stroke me now because I don't want you to, and this is my bed, leave me alone, and yes, I want the best food possible. She's like a queen. But Rosie's like half dog, half cat, so they really like her. So he loves to go and find them and sniff them, and he whimpers because he can't get close enough, because he wants to like say hello to them closer, and his tail wags all the time. But then they run, and sometimes he goes like that, and sometimes he has his teeth out, so he's not there yet. I'm not willing to let him be in a room alone with them. So when me and Mum are both out at work together, and we're coordinating our rotas so that we're not leaving them alone for very long at all, like maximum 5 hours or something. They'll be in the kitchen and the cats will be in the garage, and we put the cat food in the garage, and they've got a litter tray and they've got beds and it's warm enough at the moment and that kind of thing. So the dogs will be fine, and if he does a wee in the kitchen because we're a bit too late to take him out, we can clear it up and stuff. So we're coordinating it. But this time last year I was saying, oh, this is why I haven't been making videos, it's because we've got Daisy. Well, now we've got 2 of them and the 2 cats, so good luck. But they are my children. I'm not in a relationship. I'm not planning on having children. I'm not going to be actually having the human fur babies, but I'm having the fur babies. So these are my babies, and they are 90% of my life, and the other 10% of my home life is doing stuff that my mum wants me to do, and then occasionally I've got time for my hobbies. But then the rest of my life, that's my home life, that 100%, and then the rest of the 100%, so I guess really 50% of my life is work. So I'm a bit of a workaholic. I am that kind of person who does answer work emails at home. And so I really, really enjoyed my job before April, because we all know what happened in 2020. But I was a medical secretary, and I say was, but I still am, kind of. I was a medical secretary. I was working for 3 neurosurgeons, back spinal doctors, not the brain, although one of them does do brain surgery, but not in my hospital. And I really realise now how much I really enjoyed that job. And then COVID happened, and the government announced that all the hospitals would stop doing elective routine NHS surgery, and I work in a private hospital. So if you're from a country that only really has private hospitals, the way it works in the UK is that we pay, I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, we pay a certain kind of tax that allows us to have fire brigade, ambulance, hospitals, Coast Guard, police, and other stuff, rescue services, things like that. And so you can get treated by the NHS for free because you pay your taxes. And even if you don't pay your taxes, there's a pot of money, a huge pot of money that pays for emergency, routine, operations, medical treatment, that kind of thing. You pay a charge for prescription. So I don't know what it is now. Let's say it's £10. Your prescription might cost less than that, but you pay £10, or it might cost a lot more than that, but you pay £10. You don't pay for ambulance, you don't pay for operations in the NHS unless you want to go privately. Some NHS hospitals have private wards, and that helps to subsidise the cost of other things. And the NHS also funds lots of things like research and clinical trials and stuff. But then also we have private hospitals, and that's very much like in America. So the things that the NHS won't do, like plastic surgery and things that the NHS won't pay for anymore, that they think aren't essential, but you still want or need to have done. So some people have a condition, for example, just thinking of it at the top of my head, called sunken chest syndrome, where their sternum isn't a normal position, it's sunken. And so the NHS have stopped funding that, and so you might choose to have it done privately. So you save your money, or you take a loan out, or you've got health insurance and then you have it done privately. And our hospital does private operations that the NHS won't fund. They also do operations that the NHS will fund, but we can do them quicker because unless you're urgent, you have to go on a waiting list with the NHS. And then also we help the NHS by doing operations for the NHS for free for the patients, and the NHS subsidise us. And so that was what I was doing. I was doing the NHS neurosurgery, back patients, or neck patients who've got the pain in the arms or the legs. That's what my consultants did. But then the government told the NHS hospitals that they would stop doing any non-urgent surgery in April because of COVID, because we were all watching what was happening in the other countries in the world like Italy and Spain, and you were seeing people lying on the floor in waiting rooms and corridors because they didn't have enough beds, they didn't have enough doctors, and obviously you need a lot of ICU beds. And when something goes wrong in theatre, the patient has to go to ICU to be looked after so that they don't die. And that includes private hospitals. We're very lucky where I work in that we've got an NHS hospital across the road. So and thankfully it doesn't happen often at all, if something goes wrong in our theatres, we have to send the patient over to the NHS hospital to be looked after. And we can't guarantee that we'd, back in March when we were thinking that the NHS would be under so much pressure, and obviously it is, but not as much as we worried about. So we couldn't even guarantee that we'd have one ICU bed available if we had something go wrong in theatre. And also our anaesthetists, who also work for the NHS, were being retrained to be ICU doctors. So we had anaesthetists who were being retrained and then coming over to do operations, and they couldn't do both. So we just had to stop doing operations, private and NHS. And we were told because the government was saying we will buy the beds in these private hospitals so that the NHS have additional places, either for the COVID patients, the urgent patients, or the elective patients who have been on the waiting list for too long. They can go to these private hospitals and they can have the treatment they need. And so we were waiting for that to happen. So unfortunately we had to cancel a lot of operations, which we're going to rebook as soon as possible. But we were told eventually what we would be doing to help the NHS, and we would have the oncology patients, the cancer patients. And then later we were told that half the hospital would become a minor injuries unit. So we divided the hospital, not in half, in like 2/3 for oncology and 1/3 for minor injuries, which is part of the A&E department. So that's how it's been for the past 4 months. And then in early July, or mid-July, like the 20th, the oncology wards left. We had chemo and oncology, and then minor injuries is still there, but what we'll be doing in August is orthopaedics for the patients who've been waiting a very long time. So I'm really, really glad that we are able to help the NHS. I watch these fly-on-the-wall documentaries about hospitals and paramedics and stuff, and I'm always thinking, I wish I could help more. I'm an administrator, I'm not clinical, but I wish I could retrain as a paramedic, or help to cut down waiting times somehow by coming up with some brilliant idea and then being on the team that does that at an NHS hospital or something. So I'm glad that we were able to help the NHS more. But it was really, really hard. And because my job wasn't there anymore, we weren't doing what my consultants do. I didn't need to be doing my job because I'd be sitting there doing nothing. So we all of the medical secretaries got redistributed to other areas of the hospital, and a lot of other people did too. And so we had a choice of a few different jobs that we could apply for, but not like with a CV, but just say, okay, I'll do that if, that's one of my options. I would like to do this, or this, but not that. And the options were housekeeper, healthcare assistant, work in the supplies and stores department, making sure we've got enough equipment and stuff, and a couple of other things. And I was put on the housekeeping team, which I don't mind at all. I've worked in retail before, and so I'm very fine with getting my hands dirty, getting on with stuff, lifting and shifting and stuff. But and I didn't actually mind cleaning, but I was sick of it by the end. Oh my God, so sick of it. Not because I don't like cleaning. Well, I don't like cleaning my own house, but obviously it's a very, very important role in a hospital during a pandemic. It's even more important. And it was great knowing that I was making a difference, but it was just so repetitive. and that's what I didn't enjoy. I didn't enjoy the fact that every bedroom in our hospital looks identical, so you're cleaning the same room again and again, even if it's got a different number on the door. It's so repetitive, and boredom can lead to stress in work, in occupational health. They recognise that. I'm just stroking Rosie, she's up to no good. So it was frustrating. So I'm not on the housekeeping team anymore, and oncology, the wards have gone, which I guess is difficult because they got moved from the NHS hospital over to our ward because we were considered to be safer, because the coronavirus can spread so easily, and if you limit the space that you've got for these patients and the doors and the people in the building, then you're going to be having fewer people just randomly walking onto the ward, fewer outsiders coming in, and obviously we're not allowed visitors in hospital most of the time now, fewer people in the general area. So if you move to a smaller hospital that is one purpose, has a very restricted access and restricted number of people who work there, generally, in theory, it should be safer. But we didn't have such a crisis in our NHS hospital than we thought. So at the end of it, the oncology nurses were thinking we didn't actually have to move. And then they had to move back because these contracts have a end date. We don't. It's the local hospitals or the local decision makers in the NHS who decide how long they'll stay for. They could have stayed for 6 months, 9 months, a year, I don't know. But they stayed for 3 months, or just over 3 months. And then they didn't move to that back to their own ward. They moved to another ward. And so it's a lot of upheaval for them, and the patients had to be moved over and stuff. But personally, I'm glad we're going back to orthopaedics, because that is the majority specialism we have in our hospital. And it means that the theatre team can come back, because we weren't doing any operations. So the theatre team went over to work elsewhere, like in the NHS hospital, because a lot of them are respirator trained. Or if they didn't need to be doing that, they worked in the theatres in the NHS hospital. We've got our own knowledge base back. We know orthopaedics off by heart. We've got our team back. We're in our comfort zone again. But also, oncology is hard, and it wasn't a palliative care ward, which is shocking because the amount of patients who were end of life, and it was depressing because you'd walk past a patient room and he might have, or she might have been there for 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden they've died. And obviously not all of them died, and a lot of them were just in to have extended periods of chemotherapy, so they just needed looking after, or they came in because they had some sort of new symptom and they wanted to make sure that the doctors were close so that they could be looked after, or because their symptoms had increased and their family weren't able to look after them. But a lot of people died, and you expect that in an oncology ward, but you don't expect that in my hospital. So it was horrible, especially if you bonded with any of the patients, which I did bond with one of them. Because I only worked evenings, you didn't actually go in the patient rooms very often when they were in there. If you worked mornings, you went in there a lot and you talked to the patients. I talked to one lady and she was expected to go home, and then she died. Just like that. She deteriorated in a couple of hours, and I came back from dinner and she was dead. It was so sad. And I'm not one to get emotional, but it was hard. And I wasn't dealing with these patients firsthand. The nurses were, and it was so hard on them. And it was really hard watching the people who had never, ever been through this before hold people's hands while they were dying. Because we have healthcare assistants who have done their training, but have never necessarily had a placement on a ward where people were that ill. And so you got, especially the young ones who are so young and innocent and maybe have never seen a grandparent die or something. bonding with these patients because they weren't allowed visitors until they were end of life, and so the nurses and the other people who were on the ward were their visitors. They would come in and chat with them and you know, check that they were okay, and some of them would even bring them things like, they say, oh, I really want the bottle of Lucozade, so they'd bring them a bottle of Lucozade. So they really did bond with them. And then you see especially the young innocent ones become so serious and so used to this death now within a month. It was shocking, because you don't want people to be so blasé about death. Hello, Rosie. Hi. What are you doing? So yeah, it was hard. And so I'm glad we're getting patients who are generally fit and well coming to have Rosie, coming to have surgery again. It's in our comfort zone. And I'm not on the housekeeping team anymore, which is good, because I was sick of cleaning by the end of it. It's so repetitive and mundane, and you get really frustrated with people just dropping rubbish on the floor. And clear up after yourself. You wouldn't do this in your home, would you? You wouldn't leave the toilet like that. Scrub it with a scrubbing brush. You wouldn't not clear up that coffee stain. Seriously, clear up after yourself. And so I've got a huge newfound respect for cleaners. And they shouldn't be paid minimum wage. People pay your cleaners. So I'm working in admin again now, which is nice. And so I guess that's a huge, seems like a side topic, but that's one of the reasons I've not been making videos in the past few months. But then I've not been making videos for the past like 12 months. So I don't have editing software anymore. My computer updated, and obviously what's it called, video editor, Windows, that video editing software that used to come with Windows disappeared, and I don't want to have to learn an advanced type of software to just cut out the errors in my videos or edit bits of videos and put them together, you know, like if I'm making something and I want to show you the process. Oh, Rosie, she's been really cute. So I've downloaded a couple of them and I've played with them. It's not as straightforward as the Windows one, video editor, and all I want to be able to do is just cut out the bad bits and leave the good bits and put the good bits together, and maybe have a bit of music in the background, and maybe put some comments on the screen when I forget to say something. If you have any recommendations, please let me know, because I want to start making and editing videos again. I have ideas, but I can't have a 3-hour long video of me making something because I can't edit it down to 20 minutes. So yes, please recommend. And also